I've been interested to see artists online who have a studio, a making space, a creating space, surrounded by all sorts of art they've made, and then they would take it down, rework it, let it inspire them for something else. But just to see a room that is surrounded by the thoughts and creations of one person, I think is something we need to make for ourselves. And it might just be a corner. For me, I've got a corner of this room and it looks very untidy, but when I start to look at it and be in the space, I realise this is me, this is what I think, this is what I like, these are colours I like, these are books I like, these are things I want to reference and reach for. And it's just being surrounded by things you love and that inspire you, that you draw from, is helpful towards whatever you're next going to make. And it's part of saying, here I am. It's a sense of making somewhere that's good for you to work in. And Virginia Woolf, for writers, said it's important for a woman to have a room of her own. She specifically said women because at that time women weren't expected to have much space to themselves. And I think if we start doing that as makers and artists and writers, that we have a room we can be in, or more likely even a corner of a room that we can be in at times, but it's set up to feel like something that inspires us and where we're comfortable, where we're thinking and making and storing what we make well, then it encourages us to make the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's another thing to do with making art that I've become aware of, is that artists who make and produce, and writers also, quite often are working on several pieces at one time. So there's this sense of you work on something, you run out of inspiration for it, or it needs to dry if you're painting. You can put it to one side, then you move on to the next one. And if you're using the same palette of paints, that means you can keep going, nothing gets wasted. You work on the next one. So yeah, making creates making, and keep going. And it helps us not to get that sort of feeling of,
oh no, it needs to be perfect. Oh, it's not perfect.
because we're working on, say, 4 or 5. And it's that law of numbers, it's that sense again of parts will be good. Probably 1 out of 4 will be a lot better than the others. And that's grand. If you've got 10, it's even more likely that you'll have something, maybe 1 or 2 that are great. And that's so encouraging. And we don't worry about the pieces that aren't quite good. Ideas are infinitely recyclable. If we write a paragraph, we love it, and then we think it doesn't work in the context of the story, we can take it out, but we save it on our computer or on a bit of paper, and we use it again in another piece when that time comes. So it helps us not to be starting from nothing. If we've got something that's a picture and it hasn't worked, but we like a corner of it, we can cut that off and let it inspire us for making another bigger piece. It's getting those little parts at work. So often what looks like a finished piece of art, whether it's a painting or a book, is actually a patchwork of good bits. There was one particular writer, I think it might have been Dashiell Hammett, if it's not I'll put the right name on the screen, but he wrote, and several of his best known books, which went on to become films, were actually 3 short stories put together, 2 short stories put together. So it was the best of the best of the best put together into something that was bigger. And similarly, for something that is a final painting that's maybe very much admired, we often find that the artist has spent a long time in sketchbooks, drawing, sketching, taking the best bits out of all those little trial runs, maybe painting a few studies, which would be a small painting to say, how does it all work? How does the composition work? Is it going to be good? Before they finally paint that giant painting. So the large, good piece of art is made of lots of little pieces. And that should hopefully encourage us in what we make. Just aim to make small, good things. Find small, good pieces in what we're making. And then weave them together into a larger piece of art at some point. But also enjoy the small pieces. Bye for now.